Welcome to the Nathan Nephew Show. I am your host, Nathan Nephew. You know, we have a lot of politics to get to, and of course I've been talking about the Constitution the last few weeks. Going to continue through that. We're still on Article 1, up to Section 6, I believe. I think I might go through 6, 7, and 8, actually, because Article 1, Section 8 is fairly relevant right now with everything we have going on with the Syria situation and the potential for our president to just go ahead and order military action, war against Syria without congressional involvement. And hopefully we get to Section 8, Article 1, Section 8 to see if that's the right way to do things, or if in fact Congress is supposed to make those decisions. I want to start out, though, by pointing out that it's one of my favorite times of the year other than Halloween, and that's coming quickly. But we're getting really close to the start of the regular season. Football. I was watching the Lions tonight. They're looking pretty good in preseason. I am a Detroit Lions fan, but of course preseason doesn't mean much. A couple years ago, the Lions had a great season, but other than that, or a decent season, they made it to the playoffs. Other than that, they haven't done well in recent years. It might have even been last year that they won all of their preseason games. They went like 4-12 in the regular season. So the preseason, at least for the Lions, doesn't say much. And the game today, I started watching a little bit halfway through the first quarter, and they already had second string quarterback in, and I don't know if Matthew Stafford even started the game, to be honest. And maybe he's injured. I haven't, I've been too busy with this whole political thing that I haven't followed football as closely as I'd like to. But we make sacrifices. There are more important things than football. Our country being one of them. So since we've only got about 25 minutes here with you, let's get going on the Constitution. Article 1, Section 6. This is about compensation of senators and representatives. Senators and representatives shall receive compensation for their services to be ascertained by law and paid out of the Treasury of the United States. And in all cases, except treason, felony, and breach of the peace, be privileged from arrest during attendance at the session of their respective house, and in going to and returning from the same. And for any speech or debate in either house, they shall not be questioned in any other place. So essentially, yes, senators and representatives will be paid. And that was in part because the framers of the Constitution, well, for one, they were worried that if you made people do it for free, sure, you would get people who were serious about it in there, but then it would be really tempting to use your position for gain yourself. If you're not getting paid from it, then, well, maybe if I let Farmer Fred have what he needs, maybe I could make a little money. And we still see that today. So, it wasn't an end all to corruption in government, obviously, because politicians, particularly Democrats, I would say, can never have enough money, and they'll do anything that they can to make more. The other part of this was about arrest, and basically saying that they were immune from arrest other than treason, felony, and breach of the peace. What this was referring to at the time was civil arrest, which is extremely rare today. Extremely rare. And in fact, the Supreme Court has said that treason, felony, and breach of the peace really includes all crime. So congressmen are not immune to criminal prosecution. It just doesn't happen all that often. It's not that, how do I say this? It's not that they should do anything they want, and they really can get away with it. It's that we let them get away with it. No senator or representative shall, during the time for which he was elected, be appointed to any civil office under the authority of the United States, which shall have been created, or the emoluments whereof shall have been increased during such time, and no person holding any office under the United States shall be a member of either house during his constituents in office. So, you cannot be a civil office under the authority of the United States if it's been created or pay has increased while that member was in Congress. So essentially, you can't create a job while you're in Congress and then take the job. You also can't increase the wages of an existing job while you're in Congress and then take that job. It makes sense. That also helps to cut down on corruption a bit. Let's move on to Article 1, Section 7. Like I said, I want to get to Article 1, Section 8 because there's some good stuff in there. That's where the good stuff is. Article 1, Section 7, all bills for raising revenue. And this one's important because people forget this, including the people in the Senate and the House, and, of course, the executive branch. All bills for raising revenue shall originate in the House of Representatives, but the Senate may propose or concur with amendments as on other bills. So, anything to raise money, taxes, fees, these sorts of things, if the government's going to raise money, it must originate in the House of Representatives. The Senate can make proposals, the Senate can make amendments to the bills. Those bills must start in the House of Representatives. And then, every bill which shall have passed the House of Representatives and the Senate, before it becomes law, must be presented to the United States, to the President of the United States. If he approves, he'll sign the bill. If not, he'll return it with his objections. So essentially, no, I don't like this bill, and here's why. He'll return it to the House in which it originated. They'll enter the objections in their journal and reconsider the bill. Now, that's a veto. But 2/3 of whichever house it is can override the veto. So if it's a tax bill come out of the House, it's passed by the Senate, the president vetoes the bill but sends it back to the House, says I don't like this. If 2/3 of the House of Representatives votes for the bill to move forward, it will override the veto and then become law. So, the other option, which is used once in a while, basically if it's I don't agree with the bill but I don't have the guts to say no, or something similar to that, is if the president doesn't return it or sign it within 10 days, it just immediately becomes law. And that's so it can become law, but the president doesn't have to put his name on it officially, I suppose. Every order, resolution, or vote to which the concurrence of the Senate and House of Representatives may be necessary, except on adjournment, shall be presented to the President of the United States, and before the same shall take effect, shall be approved by him, and being disapproved by him, shall be repassed by 2/3 of the Senate and House of Representatives, according to the rules and limitations prescribed in the case of a bill. So, any bill, anything that requires an agreement by Congress, so the House and the Senate, except adjournment, must be presented to the President. And then if he vetoes it, essentially, if he doesn't sign it, again, you have to have the 2/3 vote of the House and the Senate for it to be passed. So, So, bills that intend to raise revenue for the government, so taxes, things of that nature, must originate in the House. House passes the bill. If it originates there, they send it to the Senate. Senate passes the bill. It then goes to the President of the United States. President of the United States then signs the bill and it becomes law, or sends the bill back saying no, a veto, and that requires 2/3 of the House that originally created the bill. If 2/3 vote to override the veto, then it becomes law anyway. The other option is once it goes to the president can wait 10 days, do nothing, and it automatically becomes law without his signature. Now, on to something, this is all relevant, but on to something that was actually in the news today. Article 1, Section 8. And this is actually the longest section that we've come to yet. So I think what I'll do, I don't think I'm going to actually go through the section right now. I will pick one part in Article 1, Section 8 that is very relevant, and it's relevant to the situation we have with Syria, where we have a president who, whether he wants to or not, has said, he has promised that if Syria used chemical weapons on their own people, he would attack. And it seems that Syria probably has used weapons on its own people, because the al-Assad regime is just so nice that they just murder hundreds of thousands of their own citizens because they are evil dictators. Which is why we want to avoid the one we have now, because we don't want Americans to go the same way. But on one side we have that, on the other side we have rebels that are aligned with Al-Qaeda. So really, who do we want to support? Maybe neither of them? If we look at Egypt, what happened? We decided to get Mubarak out of there because Mubarak had to be out of there, but we didn't put any thought into who would replace him, and he was replaced by Muslim Brotherhood, which just led to more violence. Article 1, Section 8, though, has this really neat and well thought out clause in there saying that Congress has the power to declare war. And in fact, only Congress can declare war. Only Congress can declare war, not the President of the United States. Now, we think, well, and we hear our President, George Bush? George Bush went to Iraq. Well, at least George Bush, when he went to Iraq, he did get congressional approval for the use of force. Twice. Got it once, then Democrats said, I think maybe, let's try it again. And then they voted again. So, slightly different than what it looks like this president may do. The UK voted not to attack Syria. They're a monarchy. We have procedures. The point here was the executive branch, the president, the framers thought that the executive branch would be more likely to start a war. They're not as close to the people as definitely the House of Representatives, but even the Senate. It's the executive branch. It's the president's one guy. He's kind of the head guy. He bears the brunt of criticism. He talks to people from other countries. All these things. He might be more likely to start a war. So he needs to talk to Congress. Congress needs to debate it. Congress, who is as close to the people as it gets in the federal government, decides whether we declare war on a foreign enemy. Now, this president, time and time again, has just went around Congress, and in fact, we'll see, I wanted to talk about a couple new executive orders that he signed today regarding the Second Amendment, just because Congress hasn't acted yet, and we have to do something. I'm going to take a quick break, though. Just remember, Article 1, Section 8, it says Congress, and only Congress, has the authority to declare war. Head over to NathanNephew.com if you're not already there. I'm sure you're listening on Red State Talk Radio. Listen to this show, past shows. You can hear the rest of the Constitution, my discussion on it there in the previous shows, and I will be right back.
When it comes to TV, if you can't see the difference, why pay the difference? Switch to Dish for the best value in entertainment. Not only will you find the same channels you know and love for less, Dish sweetens the deal with free HD for life and premium movie channels free for 3 months, including Blockbuster at home. You can also save a bundle when you combine DishNet high-speed internet with your TV service. Why would you ever pay more for TV? Switch to Dish and see what real value is. Free HD for life, premium channels free for 3 months, scores of movies with Blockbuster at home, premium savings when you bundle DishNet high-speed internet service. Limited time offer, 24-month agreement with credit qualification required. Cancellation fee, auto pay, and paperless billing and other restrictions apply. Call for details.
Call Dish Satellite, your Dish authorized retailer now. 800-507-9468. 800-507-9468. 800-507-9468. That's 800-507-9468.
Red State Talk Radio is All American Talk Radio.
The Nathan Nephew Show. Somewhat unique.
Somewhat unique?
Yes, somewhat unique.
All right, welcome back to the Nathan Nephew Show. I'm still Nathan Nephew, your host here. You know, I didn't see any today, probably because I'm not in, Detroit or Los Angeles or any of these really big, really liberal cities. But did you catch the fast food protests, or not the fast food protests, but the strike, the sort of strike by the fast food employees? And nobody can begrudge somebody trying to make a living, of course, right? And these people work, and there definitely are people in fast food that work hard. And honestly, for all the horror stories I hear, and I eat fast food more than my fair share, I have relatively few problems with fast food. I mean, as far as service, as far as getting my order right, as far as quality of the food, for what I pay for. Now, you're talking about quality, it's relative. When you're buying $1 cheeseburger, it's not going to be, if you go to a burger joint, an actual burger, restaurant and pay $10 for a burger, there's going to be a difference there. But in general, I don't have much problem with fast food, and I hear a lot of stories, and I'm like, I don't know, I eat a lot, and it works pretty well, and I think part of that might be my expectations are low. But these, what's the word? People. I'll go with people. Fast food workers who are demanding the right to form a union, because we know unions just always lead to prosperity and good jobs. They want to form a union because they think that $7.25 an hour in certain places is, it's not enough. Because, they flip hamburgers and put food in bags and stuff. And, well, they deserve $15 an hour, because can you afford your $700 a month rent on $7.25 an hour when you're working 20 hours a week? I mean, come on, are these people serious? Now, what I think this actually is, I think it's actually a paid mob, which we've seen several times from the left, and we have all these Democrats, these progressive socialists coming out in support of these strikes. But I think they're really shipped in paid mobs. Here's $20, go strike, and make it look like the majority of Americans support $15 an hour for a burger flipper. These jobs are not meant to support families. If you can, that's great, but they're low-level, entry-level jobs. If $7.25 an hour is the going rate, then that's the going rate. You can't artificially inflate that. I think some of these people striking, if they got fired, there are plenty of people more than willing to take that $7.25 an hour job so they can, feed whatever the habit they have, whatever it is, and that kind of came out right. Whatever. If you have a hobby, working part-time at a fast food restaurant can pay for it. It might not support your family of four, living in a house with cable and a car, and all that good stuff, and air conditioning, but it's not meant to. It's if nothing else, it's a stepping stone. It's a job to take while you're developing skills to get a better paying job so you can support a family. All right, real quick, Obama signed 2 executive orders today because Congress has not acted. They have not. And I cannot wait around for Congress because they don't do nothing. Today, you can put guns in a trust or a corporation. So if today you get a machine gun, right, or a short-barreled shotgun, which, do you know how dangerous a short-barreled shotgun is? Because it's so less accurate than a regular shotgun, and it just has a short barrel, and the barrel's so short, and it's not long. So if you have one of those today, supposedly, when you buy it as an individual, you have to have fingerprints and get a background check ran. But if you put it in a trust, a corporation, then the person who inherits it out of that trust does not have to have a background check according to the federal government. This executive order, which executive orders, boy, if you listen to At Odds, it only applies to federal agencies, right? Well, sure, definitely affecting individuals here. Now, if you have a trust from your parents or your grandparents and there's a firearm in there, you're going to have to get a background check, fingerprints, and the whole 9 yards. If it has a machine gun or a short-barreled shotgun, it's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous, because background checks don't do any good and should not be part of a requirement, which there should be very little requirement to owning a firearm. The other executive order was importing military-grade weapons that we've given to our... When the United States provides military firearms to its allies, either as direct commercial sales or through a foreign military sales or military assistance program, those firearms may not be imported back into the United States without U.S. government approval, the White House said. Today, the administration is announcing a new policy of denying requests to bring military-grade firearms back into the United States to private entities, with only a few exceptions, such as museums, because museums can be trusted with firearms, but trained individual citizens cannot. This new policy will keep military-grade firearms off our streets. Really? Really? So first of all, how many criminals are setting up trusts and inheriting guns from trusts or corporations without a background check and going out and murdering people with them on the streets? Second of all, how many murders are committed with these military-grade weapons that are imported back into the U.S. after they were gifted to an ally? Can we get some data on this, please? Because I bet it's doing no good. And in fact, most firearm regulations, and I would argue all firearm regulations, do no good. At least not as much good, not enough good to be worth the invasion of privacy and the encroachment on liberty and trampling on the Constitution. There's something to be said about liberty over safety. I had this discussion with a friend. What's more important, liberty or safety? My immediate response was liberty, and the cool thing is, with real liberty comes safety and security, because you have the freedom to protect yourself and your family, and I am much better at protecting myself and my family than any damn government agency will ever be by creating rules and regulations that will keep me safe. Signs do not keep me safe. Laws do not keep me safe. Laws telling somebody else that they can't hurt me do not keep me safe, because if somebody wants to hurt me, they're not going to care what the sign says on my front door. Oh, the other thing I wanted to point out with this executive order of the imported rifles, firearms, this applies to firearms that were given to allies, sent out from the U.S., and will be re-imported into the U.S. It doesn't necessarily include, AK-47s, SKSs, those sort of things that were in battle or whatever from a foreign country. The executive order is supposed to, and we know how closely laws and orders and executive orders which shouldn't exist are followed. It should not apply to all the fun rifles that some people have. I don't know anybody that owns any of them, but, like an SKS or something coming from China, Yugoslavia, whatever, those should be able to be imported still and purchased by private individuals. We'll see how this goes. That's about all the time I have, though. I want to thank you for listening. Again, I want to hear any comments you have about the show, about topics I'm covering, where it's going, anything like that. Talk at nathannephew.com. You can also head over to nathannephew.com and contact me through there. See you next week.